All righty, folks. It is Christmas week, but there is no rest for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Obviously, the big talking point this week, the Steelers can punch their ticket to the playoffs. Who would have thought this point in the season, AFC North title can be theirs with a win against the Cleveland Browns? And honestly, it doesn't even have to be a win against the Cleveland Browns. The Steelers can wrap up the AFC North title before they even step on the football field on Sunday, because Saturday night, you've got Ravens, you've got Packers. If the Ravens lose that game, their season is over. They will not make the playoffs. The Pittsburgh Steelers will be crowned champions of the AFC North. But obviously, it's not going to be easy, right? Because Mike Tomlin just finished his weekly press conference. There is a laundry list of injuries. And beyond the injuries, the main talking point coming out of that Lions game is none other than DK Metcalf. I mean, the fact that Metcalf thought that for whatever reason it was okay to go up to that fan is beyond me. We can talk about what the fan said. Obviously, no room for that. Mike Tomlin discussed it. There could be legal ramifications. That fan might be banned for life, probably should be banned for life. But the bottom line is, if you're DK Metcalf, you have got to keep your cool in that situation. You have got to understand that you have a game going on. You cannot go up to a fan in the middle of a game by under any circumstances, much less when that fan is baiting you. He's provoking you, trying to get a reaction out of you. And that's exactly what happened. And now, not only does it cost DK Metcalf 2 game checks, folks, I don't know how many people know this. DK Metcalf just voided over $45 million in guaranteed money. The Pittsburgh Steelers, if DK Metcalf were to get injured next season, they could cut DK Metcalf and not have to pay his injury guarantees. That's what he just lost because he decided to go up to that fan and get into a physical altercation. It states in his contract that if he misses practice for any reason, including a suspension, he can have his bonuses, his guaranteed salary, they will be voided. That is exactly what happened. So we can talk about the ramifications of the Steelers not having their wide receiver number one now against the Cleveland Browns and the Baltimore Ravens if it gets to that point. But the truth of the matter is that this is a very, and I mean very costly situation for DK Metcalf, because the 2 game checks, the $45 million, now you're suddenly on thin ice because, God forbid, something happens, you do get injured. The Steelers, they're a very loyal organization. They've always been player first. We know Mike Tomlin is a player's coach. But at the end of the day, you got to do what's best for business. And if DK Metcalf gets into his 30s and something happens to him, the Steelers can cut him, and now he no longer has guaranteed money, all because he lost his cool. And that, it can't happen. You're paying him. Obviously, he's making top 4 money at the position. He's been one of the best players on the Steelers offense this season. And you lose him because he loses his temper. And that's what's been, and this is not anything new with DK Metcalf. It's not like this came out of left field. We know, going back to his time with Seattle, going back to the battles he had with his now teammate Jalen Ramsey, that you can get him off his game. You can get in his head if he is not having a good game. And he wasn't. And then after that fan goes out there and does that, DK Metcalf comes out here, he drops a pass, and he gets an offensive pass interference. So he had an altercation with a fan, a drop pass, and pass interference all within, 5 minutes. Like that's just insane. The fact that, he lost his temper that much. So obviously not great for the Steelers, not great as they look to close out this AFC North, as they look to get to the playoffs. But the big news for the Steelers, the good news for the Steelers, I should say, is that it might be getting cold, but Aaron Rodgers is playing his best football. Over the last 3 games, he has been lights out. No interceptions, 5 touchdowns, 783 yards, 8 big-time throws per PFF, and 80% adjusted completion rate per PFF, passer rating over 100. He has been nails ever since that Baltimore Ravens game. And it's really not a coincidence. You go back and look at Aaron Rodgers through his career, even last year with the New York Jets, right? Coming off that Achilles. Part of the reason why the Steelers were so confident in bringing in Aaron Rodgers is because down the stretch of that 2024 season, he was very good with the New York Jets. The Jets were horrible. The team was bad. They didn't play very many good teams, so you didn't watch him. You didn't see him. But you go back and you watch the tape, and you see that Aaron Rodgers was playing by far the best brand of football that he had played prior to, and certainly post that Achilles tear. That gave the Steelers confidence that he could come back and play. And obviously, he started out really good this season, right? He looked like vintage Aaron Rodgers. Then injures that wrist. He injures his hand against the Chargers, falls off a little bit. But these last 3 weeks, he has played at a level where if he can sustain that, the Pittsburgh Steelers have as good a chance against anybody. I mean, they just beat a Lions team. Oh, yeah, we can talk about the fact that they came into the game with 6 losses. Folks, that was a team that was preparing to win a Super Bowl this year. That is a team who still has one of the best head coaches in the league, still has a great roster, and they gave everything they had. They went into that game knowing that that was essentially a playoff game. They're not technically eliminated, but they're very unlikely to make the playoffs after that game. Yet Aaron Rodgers, the Steelers offense, and even the Steelers run defense, they met the moment without TJ Watt, without Nick Herbig, without some of these critical players on the offense as well. Isaac Seumalo out, a 4-string left tackle, Dylan Cook is in there, and they beat the Lions. And I know, obviously, got way too close for comfort down there, towards the stretch of the game. They had a chance where they really, honestly, could have blown the Lions out. You're up 2 scores with 8 minutes to go, and they took their foot off the gas. The defense, they let the Lions, it was pitch and catch. Jared Goff, the Lions offense, they went down the field, easy peasy, no problem. You got to clean that up. We know that the middle of the field, the middle of that defense continues to be a problem, but you got to give credit where it's due because Patrick Queen and that Steelers defense, they came up when it mattered most. I mean, that last drive was one of the most dramatic that we have seen from the Pittsburgh Steelers. It started off with some crazy penalties where you're like, what are they trying to give the Lions the game? What exactly is going on here? Then Alex Highsmith gets called for the tripping. Can't blame the refs on that one. It was clear, it was obvious. But then the last play of the game, I mean, they had a conference, the officials that is, that took probably 3 to 5 minutes, maybe less. It felt like it took an hour. They couldn't figure out what they wanted to do. They ruled it a touchdown. The Lions fans go crazy. And then all of a sudden you realize that the Steelers win the game because there was an offensive pass interference before the pass was ever completed. And that's how it all ends. So definitely but hey, that's par for the course with the Steelers. We know that they tend to have these dramatic wins and even losses. Other than that Monday night game against the Miami Dolphins, it's just never easy with Pittsburgh. Never has been, probably never will be under a Mike Tomlin-led team. That's how they like to play football. As Mike Tomlin says, when it gets to the big boy portion of the calendar, of the schedule, that's exactly where they want to be. And that's exactly where they are because coming in to this weekend, as we discussed, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they can wrap up the division. They can end a season where many were wondering, will they have a shot of even making the playoffs as AFC North champions? And I know we can talk about the Baltimore Ravens and the fall off and Lamar Jackson's injury and the Bengals and Joe Burrow's injury and the Browns being the Browns. But the bottom line is very many people, even in the middle of the season after multiple losses, had the Steelers dead to rights. Had Mike Tomlin, I mean, we can't forget that the Buffalo Bills just a few weeks ago came into Acrisure Stadium and ran the Steelers slap over. They set a rushing record for an away team in a Pittsburgh stadium. That was horrible. And all of a sudden, these last 2 weeks, you look up and you see what this Steelers team can be when they bring all the parts and they form a whole. When you have Aaron Rodgers out here distributing the football the way that he is. When you have the run defense now with Derek Harmon, the rookie, back in the game, making those plays. Keanu Benton stepping up, showing what he can do. Cam Hayward in the middle of that defense. And mind you, this has all been without TJ Watt. Now, with that collapse long last week, is also without Nick Herbig. Jack Sawyer stepped up, had a fantastic game for a rookie pass rusher. Like, honestly, he played very well. But Alex Highsmith, folks, has been on another level these last few weeks. I mean, that Lions game, recording pressures, sacks. He's in the backfield getting tackles for loss. He should have had an interception the week prior. He has been phenomenal for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And there are talks fans, when all this is going wrong, we should have traded Alex Highsmith. We could have got draft capital for him. He's been injured. He's been banged up. But it's clear as day. When Alex Highsmith is on the football field for the Pittsburgh Steelers, he is a game wrecker. When you put him, TJ Watt, Nick Herbig, and Jack Sawyer in a pass rushing quartet, that might be the best in the league, if we're going to be honest. When that Steelers defense is humming, it is impossible to have multiple seconds back there to throw the football. And that's exactly what they're going to look to do against Shedeur Sanders and the Cleveland Browns. We know Mike Tomlin's record against rookie quarterbacks, but the big issue is going to be Myles Garrett. We know that Myles Garrett is an absolute game wrecker. We're talking about 5 sacks over the last 2 times when the Steelers played in Cleveland. This guy will absolutely change a game if the Pittsburgh Steelers don't take care of him. And he's got an advantageous matchup because Dylan Cook has been a great find out there at left tackle. I mean, folks, this is a guy who started his football career in college as a quarterback. He was a practice squad player. He was forgotten about. He was up and down. He was, his own words, a camp body for the Pittsburgh Steelers. All of a sudden, he's now the starting left tackle because what happens? Broderick Jones gets the stinger. He's out for the year. Andres Pete gets hurt. Calvin Anderson. And he's thrust into the lineup, and he has been remarkable. The fact that the Steelers have taken a 4th-string left tackle and found him to be honestly better than what they had at left tackle going or before he was inserted into the lineup, that's a credit to the scouting staff. That's a credit to Omar Khan. That's a credit to the Steelers coaching and development that they can take a left tackle who has no business being out there when you look at his resume, when you look at his pedigree, yet he is out here taking care of Aaron Rodgers, a 42-year-old quarterback that we know doesn't want to move, that we know doesn't have the mobility that he once had, that simply has to get the ball out quick if the Steelers want any chance to win. So credit to him, but he's going to face a new demon. He is going to face Myles Garrett this weekend. And if you're a Steelers fan and you want to talk about a trap game, that's where it starts and ends, is Myles Garrett. Because we can talk about the Browns offense. The wide receiver core, they just haven't been that great this year. Jerry Jeudy is really about all they have, has not performed the way he did last year. The skill positions, yeah, you got Njoku, you got Harold Fannin, the rookie. They just lost, honestly, their probably best offensive skill player being Quinshon Judkins. Gruesome leg injury that happened last week. He's out of there, going to rely on some more rookies. And then really, if you're Mike Tomlin and the Steelers defense, you know what your game plan is. You are there to heat up Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur Sanders, he's been up and down. He's, ever since he came into the lineup for Dylan Gabriel, he's shown some flashes. He's also shown some very much rookie mistakes where you're like, you can tell this guy just needs more time on task, needs more process. Well, it's very hard to be good when you go out here and you have Alex Highsmith rushing after you and potentially Nick Herbig back and potentially, per Mike Tomlin, TJ Watt back in the lineup. Because as Mike Tomlin started off with his Tuesday press conference, he doesn't have any real update. TJ Watt, he said he's probably in the facility. He's probably getting work. But the big update was that he said that TJ Watt is past the point of rehabilitating his lung, and it's just to the point where now we need to make sure that he's in football shape, that he's good to go. And that is honestly for the Steelers fans, for TJ Watt and the Watt family, that's a sigh of relief. Because as we talked about last week, how in the world you go from a dry needling recovery procedure to then being rushed to emergency surgery is beyond me. It's something we probably will never really get more details about because the Steelers, they want to keep it hush-hush. The good news is, though, that TJ Watt seems to be fully recovered from a physical standpoint. Now it's just about getting him into football shape. So with that being said, that is your preview of this weekend. That's a recap of last weekend. It's a holiday week, so we're kicking this live stream off early. It's a Tuesday instead of our normal Thursday. Let's get into the chat. Let's see what you guys want to talk about. This is it. This is the Steelers season. They can win the AFC North before they even step on the field on Sunday. So very big weekend, stacked weekend of football, stacked holiday week. Let's get into the chat and break down some questions. Okay, Oscar says, will the DK Metcalf suspension screw us? So if you're the Steelers, right, DK Metcalf, believe it or not, this has been his worst statistical season since he was a rookie. Now, you see the plays that he's made. You think of the Vikings game and what he did to the Ravens and how good he's been with the ball in his hands, and that might catch you by surprise. But the truth is, there was a middle portion that we talked about, whether it was Aaron Rodgers or whether it was Mason Rudolph, where the Steelers, they just couldn't move the football. They just simply were not good enough at going out there and making plays with in the passing game, in a vertical presence, having any explosives. That's DK Metcalf's bread and butter. The Steelers' offense's bread and butter, however, is not that. The Lions game, I should say, is a perfect example of how the Steelers want to play. Go look at Kenny Gainwell's stats. Go look at those two huge runs from Jaylen Warren. It's clear as day that they want to get out there in that jumbo personnel and they want to pound the ball. They want to pound the rock. They want to out physical opponents, especially as we get into this big boy football, this cold weather football. So if you're the Steelers, does the Metcalf suspension screw you given that it's the last 2 weeks of the season? Absolutely not. Now, if you lose him for the playoffs, which he won't be, they won't. They will have him back in the lineup. He will be back early January if and when they make the playoffs. In my opinion, it's not as big of a deal to the Steelers as it is to DK Metcalf, because we talked about the fact that he's now lost $45 million in guarantees is insane. But for the Steelers, I don't know how many people know this, their leading receiver is Kenny Gainwell. I mean, you talk about that play he made against the Detroit Lions, but what he's also done on the ground, he and Jaylen Warren have formed a 1-2 punch that defenses, especially this time of year, they just don't want to see, because Gainwell might not be the biggest guy. He's hard to bring down. Jaylen Warren, we know how explosive he is. He's also a bowling ball. So the Steelers' offensive identity does not run through DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf is the cherry on top. DK Metcalf is who you go to when you need a big play, when you need to push the ball downfield, when you want to get the ball in his hands and get some yards after the catch. But the Steelers' offensive identity relies on that run game. It relies on getting the ball to Darnell Washington over the middle of the football field, pushing the rock with Kenny Gainwell, with Jaylen Warren, and out-willing, out-physical your opponents. That's what the Steelers want to do. So good question. If it comes down to a Week 18 matchup against the Baltimore Ravens, then you got to be a little bit worried, if I'm going to be honest. Then you get to the point where you're like, boy, somehow the Ravens pull off the win against the Packers on Saturday night, and the Steelers blow it. They lose a trap game to the Browns, and now you're in a winner-take-all situation where you don't have your highest-paid offensive player. That would be a major problem. Until then, I think that the Steelers are just fine. You need to rely on that run game, but good question. Steelers always worry me playing a losing team, says Tom. Yeah, I mean, we can talk about it. You can go look at Mike Tomlin's record against the spread as an underdog and as a favorite. He is actually under 500 as a favorite against the spread. Mike Tomlin's teams tend to play down to their competition, but they tend to rise to the occasion outside of the playoffs against better competition. And that's what it's going to have to be this weekend. But this weekend is a little bit different because, as Cam Hayward loves to say, as TJ Watt loves to say, as Mike Tomlin loves to say, this is a hat and t-shirt game. All they have to do is take care of business. All you have to do is beat a Cleveland Browns team who, they won't tell you this, but they want a higher pick in the draft, who they are just trying to see what they have with some of these rookies, with some of these younger guys. They are once again trying to rebuild, trying to get to another level next year. Their season has been over for weeks now. So should the Steelers be worried? Listen, the game's in Cleveland. We know that they tend to beat Cleveland at home, but Myles Garrett's a game wrecker. He's got a four-string left tackle. The Steelers are missing their best offensive player. The recipe for a disaster is there. Do I think it will happen? No. I think the Steelers, they got to come in, hat and t-shirt game. You got to go beat the Browns and just know, hey, now maybe week 18, we rest Aaron Rodgers. Maybe we rest Kenny Gainwell and our offensive players. We don't push TJ Watt back. We make sure he's completely healthy so we have this playoff run, because it's simple as this. You win that play, or you win that Browns game, you're hosting a playoff game, which the Steelers have not done since 2020. It's been over 5 years. The Steelers, they got to take care of business. Gainwell has been a godsend. Yeah. The fact that they signed Kenny Gainwell to what was nearly a veteran minimum deal, you got to give Omar Khan and Mike Tomlin and the Steelers front office credit, because we can sit here and talk about that Caleb Johnson being their second pick in the draft, third round pick, was a complete waste of a pick. Because let's be honest, this guy was inactive last week. He's been inactive. He just hasn't played enough or shown any glimpses of being worthy of the second pick in their draft, a third round selection. That being said, they brought in Kenny Gainwell, and Kenny Gainwell has been a godsend, as you said, one of the best players on the Steelers roster in general. Like, that play against the Lions is just an incredible catch. The week before against the Dolphins, he's out here running over safeties. He's making plays down the field. You go back to the Vikings game where Jaylen Warren couldn't go. This guy had 2 touchdowns, ran for nearly 100 yards. He has been a godsend. He has been an incredible playmaker for the Steelers offense. Here's the thing. I don't know, you go look at the roster. Kenny Gainwell is only 26 years old. There's no reason to believe that Steelers don't re-sign him to a long-term extension. And by long-term, I mean for a running back, 2 to 3 years, that is. So absolutely, 100% has been a godsend. The Steelers offense certainly is not what it's been these last 3 weeks if they don't start using Kenny Gainwell a lot more. No, that's a great point. Oscar says, like, even if DK doesn't play, he opens up the offense a lot more, and that's essentially why the Pittsburgh Steelers brought DK Metcalf into the facility, into the organization, because what DK Metcalf can do on the perimeter is just something that few players can do. It's why he's paid top 4 money at the wide receiver position, because when you have an asset like that is so big, so strong, so physical, yeah, you want him to win downfield, which we saw him do against the Ravens. But as we saw against the Minnesota Vikings, all you have to do is get the ball in his hand. You get the ball in his hands, and, he's hitting his head on the goalpost from 80 yards out. He takes a slant a mile. He takes a post, a dig, an in cut, even an outbreaker, and he will strike up the band. He is that good with the ball in his hands. He is an incredible talent. Still in his prime, 28 years old. Sucks that he misses these last 2 games. And even for the Steelers offense, because as we said, yeah, that might not be their bread and butter, but if for whatever reason they get down against the Cleveland Browns, it's a lot easier when you have this, 6'4" freak that can go out there and make plays with the ball in his hand. You just say, hey, let's get him a screen pass, let's get him a smoke route, a glance route, let's get him open and just watch him go to work. It makes your offense that much easier, right? And especially when we can talk about Kenny Gainwell and Jaylen Warren and these other players. The Steelers don't have a lot of talent on the perimeter outside of DK Metcalf. Yeah, the offense has been better since they, integrated Marquez Valdes-Scantling, since they went ahead and put in Adam Thielen. But now that's going to change, right? It's going to be on Roman Wilson. Roman Wilson, who's been inactive. We wrote about it, A2Zsports.com/Pittsburgh Steelers news. Roman Wilson's it's his time to shine. You've been inactive. These 2 years, they've been more down than they have up. He has shown some flashes. He has shown some ability to get open in NFL games. Well, now's your time, because you can't be inactive anymore because the Steelers' star wide receiver is out. And that's not even to mention that Calvin Austin III, he might miss time with his hamstring. So this is his time to shine. MVS, you need him to step up. You obviously have to go out there, and you need more from Adam Thielen. Scotty Miller comes out and has a big game last week. The Steelers, they're going to need all the help that they can get. So totally agree. Metcalf definitely opens up the offense. He will be missed, but there's no reason, I should say, why the Steelers can't beat the Cleveland Browns. There's none. So, but good point, Oscar. As a Steelers fan, I can speak for everyone in the chat when I say the Steelers will play down to the Browns. Unfortunately, you're exactly right. I mean, we talked about it. That's just kind of been the MO with Mike Tomlin-led teams, right? We talked about his record against the spread. They just, for whatever reason, consistently play down to their competition. I think this one's a little bit different, though. because as we spoke about, this is a hat and t-shirt game. It's when the Steelers break for training camp, when everybody reports to Latrobe back or in July every year, they have one goal. Sure, everybody wants to win a Super Bowl, but it all starts with what? With winning the division. And the AFC North, we can talk about it being down this year. It has consistently been one of the most competitive, one of the hardest divisions to win a title in. When they set out every year in training camp, that is the Steelers' main goal. That is their only goal, is to win the AFC North. And now, this week, you come in to practice tomorrow when they report to the South Side, and you know that your whole goal is in front of you, that you just go and win this game and then shoot. You probably get a week off against the Ravens. You get to host a playoff game. You get to go in well rested and as champions of the AFC North, something that maybe even Steelers fans didn't think that would happen when you signed all these older players, when you waited on Aaron Rodgers, when you didn't get a replacement for George Pickens, when you didn't address some key holes on the defense. But here they are, one chance against a team that, as we talked about, the Browns should have no shot against the Pittsburgh Steelers. They shouldn't. This should be an easy win for Pittsburgh, but history says that it won't be. We will see if they can take care of business, though. Oscar says Garrett wants the sack record. And you know what? Not only does he want the sack record, he's got 2 weeks remaining to get it. This is going to be his best chance to set that record. I believe he's half a sack off. Could have had it last week. Like we said, fourth string left tackle. That's the rest. That's a recipe for a sack record right there. Especially when you're as close as he is to setting that record. So if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, Mike Tomlin talked about it. There's only so much you can do. You can chip them. You can put tight end. You can put a tight end next to Dylan Cook every single rep. There's a reason why he's probably the best pass rusher in the NFL. There's a reason why he's about to set an NFL record for the most sacks in a regular season. He is just simply unstoppable. There's certain players that, you come across them once in a generation, and you don't have answers. You can study them. You can have the answers to the test even, but it doesn't mean you're going to pass, because Myles Garrett, he is just a freak of all freaks, right? We talked about what he's done in the past, the debate between him and TJ Watt. Obviously, TJ's been banged up this year, but there's just certain guys in the league where when they're at their best, you just throw up your hands. And unfortunately, that's how good Myles Garrett is, and how good he might be this weekend, especially with the Steelers being banged up on the offensive line. All right, folks. Well, I think that is going to wrap it up for this week's live stream. A little bit earlier in the week, obviously got the holidays coming up, so want to wish everyone a happy holidays. I want to wish everyone, or say thank you to everyone for always joining these live streams and coming in and having a good time and discussing Steelers football. So going to be a big week, right? Obviously, the Steelers, they can get a late Christmas present. But it'll come a day early, where if the Green Bay Packers take care of the Baltimore Ravens on Saturday night, that is it. See you later, AFC North champion. So we will keep it locked. We will stay tuned. We will have all the updates on A to Z Sports.com/Pittsburgh Steelers. You all have a great holiday season, and we will talk before the new year.